I'm convinced at this point, the only thing that matters is the waiver wire. Like, dear God, if you were able to draft Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and then effectively play the waiver wire all season, you're probably sitting at 9-3. You're probably sitting at 8-4. You probably have a phenomenal record. We're going to continue to try to play this waiver wire game and find some league winning options. But before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, you know, you can drop them down there in the comments. And in that comment section, you can find a link to Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, you can check out all these cool player props. You can get in a draft with us on the live stream, and when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And I would go ahead, check out the James Conner line for a Monday night. I know it's a tough matchup. I get it, but he's getting every single touch out of this backfield. Or do you really think Keontae Ingram's going to have a large role? But that should be it. Let's go and let's dive back into the Kansas City Chiefs here. Oh my gosh, Isaiah Pacheco dominating. I mean, with Isaiah Pacheco coming in to this game, he had already been listed as a starting running back. He gets the first snap, and I understand why he's sitting out there on a few waiver wires, I guess. I mean, I'm surprised to see how many leagues he's available in. I mean, yeah, he really hadn't had that true breakout level game so far this season. Like, we even saw in the game that Isaiah Pacheco's 107-yard rushing performance was the first time a running back hit 100 rushing yards in a game for the Kansas City Chiefs since the first month of 2021. 20 or so, over 20 weeks, the first time that they hit 100 rushing yards. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes down with the injury, but a week ago, Clyde Edwards-Helaire literally didn't log a single touch. So it's not like Isaiah Pacheco's breakout was just because of the Clyde Edwards-Helaire injury. No, this is something that we should assume is his role going forward. Like, there's no way in hell they go back to Clyde Edwards-Helaire when Isaiah Pacheco in this game looked better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire has in a very, very long time. Now, complete transparency, if you're playing in a full PPR format, maybe it will be advantageous for you to go through, pick up Isaiah Pacheco, and then immediately sell him because he's never going to be a running back catching the ball out of the backfield. At least we didn't really see it in college, and at the same time at the NFL level, even if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going down, you still have Jarrett McKinnon as the third down back here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Jarrett McKinnon is going to be getting the majority of the work as a pass catcher. But in that non-PPR format, that is where I want to keep Isaiah Pacheco. Either format, you pick him up off the waiver wire because I promise you he's going to be better than someone on your roster. But in a non-PPR league, roster him the rest of the season. He's going to be someone you're excited to start, and you're going to hope that he gets the touchdown, which is very possible considering the fact that he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. Full PPR format, though, when he's not catching the ball, maybe we pick him up and then immediately sell him high like we did with Deontay Foreman a few weeks back. But now going over to a running back that can be a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 for you just this week, Samaje Perine. By this week, I mean week 12, by the way. I mean, if we're looking at Samaje Perine doing his best impersonation of Joe Mixon. Like we literally said in the Sunday morning live stream, it would be unbelievable to see Joe Mixon come through and have 5 touchdowns again. If we see another 5 touchdown performance from Joe Mixon, it will probably be the first time we've ever seen anything of the sort. Well, Samaje Perine gets 3. So if Joe Mixon were to stay healthy, if these touchdowns were to gone over to him, it would have been crazy. But that's just a quick side note. With Perine, obviously the reason you're picking him up is Joe Mixon goes down with the concussion. Now it looks like Mixon may be missing a week, maybe 2. Now, of course, this won't be a season-ending injury, or we're really hoping it's not. I'm assuming that you are going to get Joe Mixon back for the long term, of course. So you're picking up Samaje Perine just for the spot start. But I think it will be a fine option as a spot start player, knowing that even before the Joe Mixon injury earlier this season, Samaje Perine was getting involved as that passing down running back. This is a phenomenal offense in Cincinnati. It is an improved offensive line. I mean, you'll have Trayveon Williams worked in a bit here, but Trayveon Williams, not a special player whatsoever. Perine can be a high-end RB2, low-end RB1. this week in such a good offense in a good role. Now, one of my favorite pickups is going to be Trailon Burks here. I mean, a wide receiver that we had on the video a few weeks back saying, okay, he's about to come off the IR, probably a good idea to pick him up. And the reason for this is if you go back to the prospect profile you had of Trailon Burks coming out of Arkansas, I mean, the man was a dominant producer, accounting for over 40% of his team's receiving yardage production in the SEC. That's the kind of production we're looking for. He declares early for the NFL draft. He's a good athlete. He has the size. He gets drafted in the first round. He checks every box that you would look for. Great prospect, of course. He's not going to be A.J. Brown. I mean, I'd be very surprised if he was. But him coming out this past week against the Packers, leading the team in targets, has 8 targets, 7 receptions, 111 receiving yards. Now, what you really want with Trailon Burks is you want Tannehill to be able to step up the passing volume. Now, of course, when they want to run the ball over and over again, it is going to be a little difficult to go through and project that for them. It is what it is. I think Trailon Burks is someone that you have to pick up. Now, going over to the Los Angeles Rams, you don't need to run to your waiver wire to pick up Cam Akers. I do want to bring him up, though, because if we are looking at the usage that we had with Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, and Kyren Williams, so you had Darrell Henderson starting the game, then getting pulled almost immediately. Darrell Henderson gets pulled. And then from there on out, it looked like Cam Akers was the first and second down running back. Kyren Williams was more the third down option. Now, of course, this will be a little bit frustrating in a full PPR format with Cam Akers, where this past week, he had a total of 0 targets out of the backfield. You had Kyren Williams with both targets. We know Kyren Williams, a slow, small running back, not much upside whatsoever. But what Kyren Williams can do is he can catch the ball out of the backfield. So he's going to eat into Cam Akers' workload on third downs. But for first and second down, I think you could be excited about going through and picking up Cam Akers as the final roster spot just to see maybe they go, okay, yeah, no, we're not interested in Darrell Henderson going forward. It'll be a 2-man backfield with Akers and Kyren Williams, and it's kind of a similar situation to what we have in Kansas City. I don't know. I just want to be putting him on the radar because it may look like this is going to go from a 3-man backfield to a 2-man backfield in Los Angeles. But going over to Buffalo, y'all know we said it was safe to drop James Cook a few weeks back. Well, that's because we thought Nyheim Hines was going to get involved, and it looks like that may not be the case, but James Cook is now. James Cook going through having 11 carries, 86 rushing yards. You would assume that this is not really going to be the typical stat line for James Cook, especially when they add Nyheim Hines in here. I would assume that maybe James Cook gets still involved somewhat as a passing down running back because that's what the Buffalo Bills drafted him for. But he's been a very efficient runner so far this season. He's had 33 carries, 169 rushing yards, 5.1 yards per carry. Now, of course, yards per carry, not a good stat to bring up. That can be skewed, especially when it's such a small sample like this. But I'm still not all in on Devin Singletary. I don't think the Buffalo Bills are either, or they wouldn't have tried to sign McKissick in the offseason, then draft James Cook in the second round, and then go through and trade for Nyheim Hines. I thought Hines was going to be involved. Looks like he's not. So James Cook looks like he is an injury away from being the starting running back for the Buffalo Bills. And I kind of think he'd have more upside than Devin Singletary if he were in that role, just because I think he's a better passing down running back. But now let's go over to some wide receivers, starting off with someone that I thought was available in every league. How is Donovan Peoples-Jones available in some leagues still? I don't know if these are just leagues that are on Yahoo that people drafted a team, played for the first 3 weeks, and then everybody quit. I don't know if that's why it's saying that he's not rostered. It seems like every other person in our live streams have Donovan Peoples-Jones. It seems like I'm talking to a bunch of people that already have him on his roster. But I do want to go through. I want to at least give an update on what just happened and remind anybody. If you do not have Donovan Peoples-Jones and he's on your waiver wire, go pick him up ASAP. He looks like he could be a top 24 wide receiver rest of season. You had seen the consistent production up until this week. You had almost 500 receiving yards for Donovan Peoples-Jones. However, he hadn't given you that massive spike week yet because he hadn't scored a touchdown, but you kind of knew they were coming. If you looked at his average depth of target, if you looked at the volume he was seeing, it was just a small sample error that he hadn't had a touchdown yet. I think that you are going to see Donovan Peoples-Jones start scoring the ball more in the second half of this season. We got a glimpse of that this week. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 61 receiving yards, and the touchdown against the Buffalo Bills in a game where Amari Cooper went nuclear. I mean, this was a great Amari day. Now, we're another week into the season, and that means we are 1 week closer to Deshaun Watson returning. And if we're looking at Deshaun Watson, this is a quarterback that you have to say has an elite ceiling. From an adjusted yards per pass attempt standpoint, Deshaun Watson's career average would have made him a top 3 quarterback last season from an adjusted yards per pass attempt standpoint. Absolutely ridiculous. We say it all the time. The Browns are bad, but they did not go through and trade 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, then proceed to give Deshaun Watson the most guaranteed money in NFL history and to take on all his baggage because he's some average quarterback, because he's a tiny upgrade over Jacoby Brissett. No, he will be a massive upgrade over Brissett, and Donovan Peoples-Jones will have a very high ceiling. Now, going over to the Giants, you thought Wandel Robinson was going to be a league-winning pickup this week. Then Wandel Robinson goes down. I mean, before the injury, the man had 13 targets. The man had 9 receptions and 100 receiving yards in a good matchup against the Detroit Lions. Now, I want to still kind of include him on this video. We're going to put him next to Darius Slayton and saying that one of these 2 wide receivers we're going to need to pick up. Now, of course, the New York Giants wide receiver room looks like it's cursed right now. We have the fallout with Tony, Kenny Golladay turning into a pumpkin, and on top of this, Sterling Shepard going down. Now, Wandel Robinson going down. It looks like the room may be cursed, but if Wandel Robinson, somehow, there's a report coming out this week, maybe on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, saying that he's not going to be out as long as it initially looks, then yeah, if he's only going to be out for a week, or maybe he plays this week, you pick him up and you get excited about it. In reality, however, I think you are going to have Wandel Robinson missing a decent amount of time. And if that will be the case, I think you probably instead have to pivot over to Darius Slayton just because he's the last guy standing. Now, going over to Demarcus Robinson, I do want to put a massive asterisk on this. So I know Demarcus Robinson, great game against the Carolina Panthers. 9 targets, 9 receptions, 128 receiving yards. If I'm going to be honest with you here, I think that Mark Andrews was banged up a little. I don't think Demarcus Robinson's legit. Okay, I will say it. He's going to be a lot of people's top waiver wire pickup. I almost just want to include him on the waiver wire video because I know you're naturally going to go out there and run to pick him up. If we're looking at long-term upside, I do not see it in the range of outcomes for Demarcus Robinson this far into his NFL career, where he previously played with Patrick Mahomes. All of a sudden, finally breaking out, finally becoming a consistent option in fantasy. Even if we were to have Bateman injured, you still have Andrews as the top target in this offense. I'll include Demarcus Robinson on the waiver wire video because I know everybody else is, but I want to kind of include him on ours just to say, don't pick him up. Leave him out there. Now, a few sneaky options. We'll go over to the tight end position. Juwan Johnson, I guess he's not sneaky because we've had a lot of people asking us in the live streams as of late over the past few weeks if they should start Juwan Johnson. And I need to apologize to you because I've told you, no, you can't start Juwan Johnson. Go play someone like Tyler Higbee instead. And over the past 5 weeks, the man's averaged a touchdown a game. Over the past 5 weeks, the man's had 5 touchdowns. This past week, yet again, 47 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. The week prior, 44 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. The week before that, 42 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. So even if I'm not a believer in the talent profile, even if I'm way late to the party here, I kind of have to throw in the towel and say, yeah, I mean, if you just had the Kyle Pitts injury, if we are just struggling and have nobody at tight end, Juwan Johnson will be viable. But speaking of having nobody at a position, if you are more desperate than you've ever been, if you are playing in a super flex league and you went through and you drafted Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, and Daniel Jones. Those are your 3 quarterbacks. Bryce Perkins could be a viable pickup for you. Now, of course, I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, okay, if Bryce Perkins goes in, he's going to turn around this Rams offense. He's going to be an upgrade over Stafford. No. He's going to be a very bad real-life NFL quarterback, okay? He's going to be a very bad real-life NFL quarterback. But we've seen mediocre quarterbacks in real life, Justin Fields, turn into elite-level fantasy football quarterbacks strictly with their rushing upside. If we look at Perkins, his junior season in college, 923 rushing yards, 13 games played. In college, they also take sacks as negative rushing yards. So I think that if you're playing in a Superflex league, if we were desperate for a quarterback streamer, you could find a worse option than Bryce Perkins this upcoming week. I mean, even if Matthew Stafford misses a few weeks here, because if he has back-to-back concussions, why are they going to rush him back in if they're dead last in the division? I think he could at least be worth a look at. Now, that's all I got for you. Of course, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section below. Thank you again. I truly do appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. And if you want to check out any of these player props, you can find the link to Underdog Fantasy down there in the comment section, down there in the description. When you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100, and you can get into some drafts with us on the live stream. My favorite line will be the James Conner one. I know it's a tough matchup, but the volume. Now, thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day, and I hope I get to see you out in the live stream tonight.